Revealed, how a black housekeeper discovered the hidden truth that saved a billionaire's life. In the bustling suburb of Maplewood, where laughter echoed from backyards and the smell of barbecues wafted through the air, Amelia Johnson's heart beat with the rhythm of hard work and determination. At 35, a strong black woman and devoted mother, she scrubbed floors for a living. Despite her struggles, Amelia stood tall, a pillar of resilience in her tight-knit community. Everyone knew her first as a housekeeper, but more importantly, as a woman whose kindness and undying spirit raised others up, even when she had little to give. On a bright afternoon that began like any other, Amelia found herself lugging pails of water across the marble floors of Frank Caldwell's South Grand estate. As she immersed herself in the familiar task, there was a sudden, jarring crash from the study. Her heart dropped. Rushing in, she found Frank, a billionaire who lived cloaked in mystery, sprawled on the floor, clutching his chest. Panic surged through her, pulling at her gut. She fumbled for her phone, dialing 911 with trembling fingers, knowing all too well that Frank's health had been slipping for years. As the sirens began to wail and paramedics rushed in, Amelia retreated into the sanctuary of the room. The chaos faded as she cast her eyes on the neatly arranged bookshelves lined with histories both known and unknown. It was there, among the carefully stacked tomes, that her fingers brushed against something unexpected: a file. Curious, she opened it, and her breath hitched in her throat. Medical documents spilled forth, revealing not only Frank's rare condition but a stunning family history interwoven with her own. Their lives were not so separate after all. They shared a lineage marred by racial injustice and a narrative of loss. Amelia's mind raced. Should she take this knowledge and use it to help him, or would revealing it breach a trust she wasn't sure existed? Outside, whispers from neighbors spoke of her place in society, of the hierarchy that dictated who mattered. Her chest tightened as judgment filled the air, but behind the scrutiny was a community that also admired her spirit. Was sharing the truth worth risking their understanding? As Frank's health deteriorated and the awareness of their shared struggles deepened, Amelia felt pain blossom in her heart. If society would never acknowledge her worth, how could she hold on to her dignity? In a moment of clarity, she resolved to confront him, to demand respect not just for her, but for an entire lineage of people who fought tirelessly for recognition. Just as she prepared to knock on the door, something shifted. An alarm blared, followed by frantic footsteps. The chaos crescendoed. Frank's life was in jeopardy. Time rushed ahead of her, and she was left standing at a threshold, grappling with the weight of her choices. Could their shared history break the barriers of privilege? Or would it only further entangle them in a fight against a harsh reality? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Amelia faced the door, heart pounding, as she held the crumpled documents that could alter everything. Would unveiling their shared past pave the way for healing or drag them into deeper struggles? The stakes had never been higher, and everything now hinged on her next move. As the seconds ticked away, she prepared to confront the man whose life rested in the delicate balance of their intertwined fates, a choice that could change their lives forever. Amelia stood frozen outside the door, the weight of her decision pressing down on her like a heavy stone. She could hear the frantic voices of the paramedics, their urgent commands blending with her own racing thoughts. The documents crumpled in her hand felt like a tie to an identity she was desperate to assert but terrified to expose. Should she unlock the door and step into the chaos, revealing the truth she discovered? Or would her revelation only complicate an already tense situation? Every fiber of her being screamed that she had to act, to say something that could save him, but the fear of how he might react kept her paralyzed. She remembered her mother's words about dignity, about owning her space without apology. With a surge of courage, Amelia reached for the doorknob. The door swung open, revealing the scene inside, the paramedics working expertly on Frank, his face pale and clammy. He looked so vulnerable lying there, woven into her own tapestry of struggle and survival. The lead paramedic glanced at her, urgency radiating from his expression. "We need to stabilize him. Do you know if he has any underlying conditions?" Caught off guard, Amelia hesitated. Could she reveal the truth now? I might know something, she stuttered, her voice shaky, but it caught the attention of Frank's business partner, who was pacing anxiously by the door. "Who are you? What do you know about Frank?" he demanded, his tone laced with suspicion and urgency. I work here. I've seen his medical files," she replied, her heart racing. "There is something important you need to know." The paramedics' heads turned toward her, the pressing nature of the situation laced with curiosity. With a deep breath, Amelia unfolded the documents, her hands trembling. "He has a rare condition that's genetic and it connects to my own family. It's not just his life that's at stake, understanding this could save him." The room went still. Pushing past disbelief, Amelia felt her determination crystallize. She had to prove that their histories were not just coincidental threads but vital connections that could alter their futures. The partner gaped at her, grappling with the implications, but the paramedics were growing restless. "We need to make a decision, now," one declared. Amelia knew it was time to gamble everything. "You have to trust me. The tests he underwent, the medication, it might not be what he needs." She saw the flicker of doubt in the partner's eyes transform into a spark of something else, something like understanding. The chaos swirled, the noise converging as a newfound urgency took hold. The adrenaline washing over Amelia fueled her voice. "I can help. I know what he is facing. If you let me, I can guide you on what he needs." Suddenly, Frank stirred, his eyes opened, filled with confusion and fear. "Amelia?" he croaked, recognition dawning like a weak light. In that moment, everything shifted. A connection sparked, an unspoken understanding encapsulated the heaviness of their intertwined fates. "Stay with me, Frank. You're going to be okay," Amelia promised, her voice firm despite the storm brewing around them. But what would happen now? Without the clarity of his response, she felt a tremor of uncertainty. The line between their futures had been crossed. She could let their shared histories empower them both, or it could unravel everything. As the paramedics prepared to stabilize Frank further, Amelia's heart pounded. Could this moment of vulnerability serve as a bridge to something greater? Or was it a cue for more turmoil ahead? She looked down at him, fear and hope mingling in her veins. "Just hold on," she whispered, grasping his hand tightly. This was just the beginning of a reckoning neither of them had seen coming. How much more would they need to confront before healing truly began? Amelia's heart raced as the paramedics moved swiftly around them, their focused energy combining with the weight of her revelation to create an electric tension in the air. Frank's breathing was uneven, almost ghostly, and every shallow gasp seemed to echo within her. She needed to hold on to this moment, to let him feel her strength through the tremor of her fingers entwined with his. "Amelia, what do you mean?" Frank's voice was barely a whisper, yet it managed to ripple through the chaos. She swallowed hard. This was at the moment of truth, not just for Frank, but for herself. "You don't know this, but I am connected to your medical history. There is something you need to understand about your family." Frank's eyes widened, confusion etched on his face. His partner hovered nearby, still grappling with Amelia's disclosures, skepticism thick in the air. She couldn't blame him, only moments ago, she had been a stranger. "Just keep your focus on me," she said softly, squeezing his hand tighter. "I know it's confusing, but the doctors need to know everything about you. Your life depends on it." The partner finally moved to join their side, his expression softening. He nodded towards the paramedics, who were preparing to administer more treatments. Can we trust her?" His voice was low, carrying a weight of uncertainty. before Amelia could respond, the lead paramedic looked at Frank. "Do you trust her?" The room fell silent, the world narrowing down to Frank and Amelia, their shared history a thread woven in the fabric of both their lives. Frank's gaze flickered between the faces around him, uncertainty draping over his features. His jaw worked as if to form the words, but he hesitated, swamped by the gravity of the situation. In that split second, Amelia's chest tightened. She needed to inspire that trust. "Frank, you deserve to know the truth about yourself," she urged, her voice shaking as she tapped into the depths of her conviction. "I know this is scary, but if I can help you understand how we are connected, we can figure out the next steps together." Finally, he closed his eyes, drawing in a shaky breath. Okay, let us figure it out together." A quiet resolve settled in his expression. Relief washed over Amelia, but it was short-lived. As the paramedics made preparations, someone entered the room, a tall figure with sharp features and an air of authority. A doctor, perhaps. He scanned the environment and zeroed in on Amelia with a piercing gaze. "Who are you?" he demanded, his tone dismissive. "Dr. Smith, this is Amelia," the lead paramedic interjected hastily. "She has vital information regarding Mr. Carter's condition." Dr. Smith crossed his arms, unyielding. "We don't have time for speculation. We need facts." Amelia straightened, feeling the warmth of determination flood her once more. She needed to stand her ground. "What I know isn't speculation, it's rooted in truth. Frank's family history affects his treatment. If you refuse to listen, you might endanger his life." "Listen to her," Frank spoke up, his voice gaining strength. "I trust her. She knows what she is talking about." The tension simmered, eyes darting from the paramedic to Amelia to Frank. The room held its breath in anticipation, as if it were a team about to snap into action. "Then you need to come with us," Dr. Smith finally relented, his voice begrudgingly respectful. "We can discuss this while we treat him." Amelia nodded, a newfound sense of purpose surging through her. She was no longer just a bystander. She was integral to Frank's story, to their intertwined fates. As they moved together, doubt and fear about revealing her past began to fade, replaced by a commitment to find the truth that could save Frank. But as they hustled toward the treatment area, Amelia noticed a shadow lingering in the corner of her mind, a fear of what would surface once they unveiled the full story. Would the truth unite them, or would it tear them apart? What she didn't anticipate was just how far that revelation would bend the fragile threads of trust between them. As the paramedics wheeled Frank down the stark hallway, Amelia walked closely beside him, her heart pounding in rhythm with the clatter of medical equipment. The fluorescent lights flickered overhead, illuminating the worried expressions of the hospital staff that passed by. She focused on Frank's face, where fear mingled with a glimmer of hope. Dr. Smith led the way, his demeanor all business, but the air was thick with uncertainty. No one spoke much, the hum of machines and occasional shouts from nurses created a tense backdrop to their hurried strides. Amelia's thoughts spun wildly. Should she reveal everything now, or wait until they had a moment of privacy? As they reached a small, sterile treatment room, Frank was lifted gently onto the examination table. The paramedics began their assessment, and Amelia felt a pang of helplessness. She glanced at Frank, who swallowed hard, his brow furrowed. "Amelia, if what you're saying is true, how do we even start to untangle this?" She drew a breath, summoning her courage. "We start by trusting each other. Your family, Frank, there are things I know that could change everything for you." Each word felt like a leap into the unknown. With a slight nod, Frank squeezed her hand, a silent agreement to follow her lead. Dr. Smith and the team bustled about, their focused energy an urgent reminder of the stakes at play. "Mr. Carter, your vitals are stable, but we need to do a complete workup," Dr. Smith said, glancing up briefly. "Can you tell us anything about your family history? Any hereditary conditions we should know about?" Frank hesitated, his eyes flicking to Amelia as if seeking permission. "My mom, she had heart issues. Aged out of nowhere. His voice trembled slightly. But I didn't think much of it because I thought it was just her. I didn't think it would affect me. That's important, Dr. Smith replied, and Amelia watched the doctor's expression shift slightly like a puzzle piece finding its place in his mind. Do you know anything else? He pressed. Amelia felt the weight of Frank's gaze on her. She took a deep breath, pushing past her own fears. There's more to your family than you realize. Your mom, she wasn't just a woman with heart issues. There are patterns in many families. I think you're a part of a larger story, one that could offer us insight. Frank's eyes widened, hope and confusion battling within him. What do you mean by larger story? What are you saying? Before she could answer, the door swung open, and a nurse stepped in with a clipboard. Dr. Smith, we need you to look at these test results now. Dr. Smith nodded tersely and motioned to Amelia. You'll need to explain this in more detail when we have time. For now, let us focus on the immediate care Frank needs. Amelia felt a sinking ache. Time felt compressed, and the urgency in the air pinched at her chest. What if they weren't able to get to the bottom of everything? Could they leave things at the brink of discovery? But a flicker of resolve sparked within her. Frank needed to know his truth, and she would fight for it. As Dr. Smith turned back to Frank, the door closing behind him, Amelia leaned in closer. We'll get through this. I promise, Frank. There's something powerful waiting for you on the other side of this. Amelia followed the doctor's every movement, watching as he scribbled notes and conferred with the nurse. She felt time slipping away, a dance of shadows in the corners of her mind. With each passing second, the weight of what she held within her, that revelation, that hidden knot bound tightly in her past, grew heavier. What would happen when they untied it? Would it bring them closer, or tear them apart? Frank's gaze met hers with a question, a silent hope. And in that moment, Amelia knew they had to keep going. There was more at stake than just medical histories. It was their lives, their fates, and somewhere in that truth lay the promise of something more profound, but would they be ready to face it? Before she could voice another word, the door swung open again and in stepped a figure she never expected to see. Her breath caught in her throat as the familiar face of someone from her past entered the room. Amelia. The voice was filled with disbelief. And with it, the threads connecting their stories began to tangle even further, as the past threatened to invade the fragile truth she was trying to build around Frank. Amelia's heart raced at the sight of Jordan, a face she hadn't seen in years, and certainly not in a hospital of all places. The air crackled with unspoken words, unresolved emotions swirling like a storm ready to erupt. She searched Jordan's eyes for an explanation, but all she found was confusion mirrored back at her. Is this the right room? Jordan asked, hesitating as she stepped further inside. Her breath quickened, clearly taken aback by Frank's condition and the tension filling the small space. Yes, Amelia stammered, unsure of how to bridge the gap between their tangled past and the current chaos unfolding. Frank's fragile state drew Jordan's attention, the disbelief in her demeanor fading into concern. What happened to him? He collapsed. We're trying to figure things out, Amelia replied, the urgency pulling her back to the task at hand. But there's more to this than just a health scare. Frank's family history could provide answers we desperately need. Jordan frowned slightly, a mix of empathy and skepticism on her face. She moved closer to Frank, her presence grounding. What do you mean? What is going on with his family? Amelia glanced at Frank, who was listening intently. It felt strange, exposing their story to someone from her past, especially someone who had walked away so decisively. But time was of the essence. I found patterns in Frank's family history that could explain his condition. His mother had heart issues, yes, but there are deeper connections that might unlock the answers for both of us. Frank, clearly overwhelmed, furrowed his brow as he absorbed the weight of her words. Jordan's expression softened, sensing the emotional upheaval. You can't just gloss over the past, Amelia. You know this isn't just about health. It could change everything. Amelia felt the weight of Jordan's admonishment. I understand, but we don't have the luxury of time to dwell on that. Frank needs to know the truth, and if you know something that can help. She didn't finish the sentence, letting the silence echo around them. Jordan clasped her hands tightly, avoiding Amelia's unwavering gaze. I only know what I lived through. You need to understand that. If I reveal the truth, I can't promise it will bring peace. It might just unravel everything. Frank pushed himself up slightly, his voice shaky but determined. Whatever it is, I'd rather know. I can't keep living in the dark, not anymore. The room fell quiet as Jordan processed his words. Finally, she sighed and glanced at Amelia, the walls between them beginning to crack. Okay. But it changes everything. With that, Amelia felt a delicate thread begin to weave their paths together again. The revelation was looming closer, the truth tantalizingly within reach. Just as she thought they might finally break through the fog of uncertainty, a voice from the hallway interrupted their fragile moment. Excuse me, I need to speak with Mr. Carter, a suited man announced, pushing through the door without waiting for permission. His expression was grave, eyes darting from Frank to Amelia and then back again. Amelia's heart dropped. Who was this man, and what did he want with Frank? Suddenly, the weight of their secrets felt heavier. Amelia exchanged a look with Frank, a mutual understanding igniting concern. Change was in the air, and not just the kind they had prepared for. What truth was this stranger about to unveil, and would it ripple through their lives like a stone cast into deep water? The uncertainty wrapped around Amelia like a shroud, and she braced herself for whatever was coming next. The suited man stepped closer, his gaze sharp and unyielding. Mr. Carter, I'm Dr. Jameson, he said, his voice steady despite the urgency in the atmosphere. I'm here regarding your medical history and the implications of your current condition. Frank's breath hitched, panic creeping into his features. What do you know? What's wrong with me? Let's take a step back, Dr. Jameson replied, his tone softening, as if sensing the whirlwind devastation in the room. I understand this is overwhelming, but there are crucial factors in your family history that we need to discuss. Amelia felt the air grow thick with tension. Her mind raced as fragmented pieces from the past began stitching themselves together. She looked at Jordan, who was still processing the news, her face a mask of stunned empathy. Frank's eyes widened. My family history, that's what this is about. What did my mom have? She had heart issues, yes, Dr. Jameson confirmed, nodding emphatically. But there were also underlying genetic conditions that have not been fully addressed. He paused, letting the weight of his words settle like dust in the air. We believe these factors are contributing to the challenges you're facing right now. Heat prickled at the back of Amelia's neck. She had suspected there was more, but hearing it voiced brought a cold shiver. Do you mean there's something hereditary? Dr. Jameson glanced at her, then back to Frank. Exactly. It's likely that you are at risk for conditions that are common in your family. We need to appreciate the full scope to ensure we help you. The room went still, the quiet drowning out the beeping machines. Understanding flooded Frank's expression, mixing with fear and a simmering need for clarity. So, what do I do? I can't, he started, his breath catching as reality sank in. First and foremost, we need to conduct a thorough genetic evaluation, Dr. Jameson replied. That will give us the insight necessary to move forward safely. Amelia's heart thudded, the weight of truth resonating deep within her. If they could uncover more about Frank's genetic makeup, it could save his life. But at what cost? Would digging into this past unearth even deeper pains? Jordan shifted slightly, breaking the heavy silence. What if it's worse than we think? What if knowledge brings nothing but more turmoil? Frank clenched his fists, determination flooding his veins. I can't live like this anymore, not knowing. If there is something out there that can help me, I need to face it. In his voice was the relentless resolve of someone standing on the edge of uncertainty, ready to leap into the abyss of the unknown. Dr. Jameson nodded, reading the room. I appreciate your bravery, Frank. Knowing is difficult, but not knowing can be more detrimental. We will do this together. But just as a shift in understanding began to settle over them, the air crackled again. The hospital door swung open, and a familiar figure stepped inside Frank's estranged father, an enigmatic man from a long-closed chapter. His presence sent shockwaves through the group, instigating a whirlwind of tangled emotions burned from years of neglect and heartbreak. The tension in the room morphed, uncertainty layering upon the revelations already unfolding. Frank's jaw tightened, memories of his father's absence swirling like dark clouds over a brewing storm. What are you doing here? Frank's voice dripped with tension, mingling with his confusion. With a parched throat and urgent eyes, his father stepped forward. I came because I have something you need to know. What revelation could possibly justify years of silence? Amelia held her breath, her heart pounding in rhythm with the impending chaos. Would this newcomer bring hope, or deep wounds disguised as truths? As the emotional storm loomed larger, the fragility of their situation became painfully clear. Each revelation disturbs the delicate balance they had only begun to rebuild. But what could his father reveal now that might change everything? Frank's father hesitated, the air thick with years of unspoken words. I didn't want to be here, but I need you to understand that this isn't just about you anymore. His voice trembled, revealing cracks in his stoic facade. Not about me? Frank echoed, incredulity spilling over. How can you say that after all these years? Memories of hurt and anger surged within him. Here was the man who had long abandoned him, now returning in a moment of crisis. I know I don't deserve your trust, his father said, his eyes softening for a second. But I've learned things about your health, about our family history that I wish I had spoken about sooner. Frank took a step back, the weight of his father's words pressing down like a physical force. What do you mean? What else could there be? Dr. Jameson remained a solemn observer, gauging the exchange, sensing that more than just medical truths hung in the air. His father cleared his throat, gathering courage. Your mother, she didn't just have heart issues. There were things she hid from me, from everyone. Things that could explain what you're dealing with now. The room seemed to spin. Frank's heart raced, simultaneously sparking fear and intrigue. What things? You can't just drop a bomb like that and expect me to swallow it whole. I found documents, his father explained urgently, his gaze darting to Amelia and Jordan as if gauging their reactions. Legal documents. When your mother died, she was part of a genetic study. There are conditions she didn't want you to know about, things she thought would protect you. Protect me? Frank's voice was strained, the confusion battling against a growing sense of dread. What makes you think I want to hear any of this from you? Because it may save your life, his father insisted, voice cracking under the strain of his admission. These conditions, they might explain why you're sick. Why you need answers more urgently than you know. Amelia could feel the tension straining at every sinew in the room, as emotions collided, years of hurt against a potential breakthrough. Frank's face was a blend of anger and curiosity, battling for dominance. Jordan stepped forward, her usually steady voice faltering as she addressed Frank. What if this information could actually help? What if it leads to treatment, answers we've been stop? Frank snapped, his fists clenching again. Don't make this sound easy. You don't know how I've suffered because of him. He gestured sharply toward his father, the resentment pouring out like a broken dam. His father's shoulders slumped, sadness etching deep lines on his face. I know I can't change the past. But we could write a different future, Frank. This isn't just about me being your father, this is about you having a chance. Silence fell as the weight of those words settled. Frank's breath hitched again, and suddenly, the reality of his illness crashed down. What would your mother have wanted? His father's voice broke through the stillness like a lifeline. Would she want you to live in the dark when light might be waiting on the other side? The question hung in the air, a heavy cloud of regret and hope. As Frank felt the walls closing in, uncertainty clawed at him. Would he accept his father's help to unravel hidden truths, or push him away and risk losing precious time. Do you really think I can trust you? Frank's voice was a whisper, frail yet powerful. His father met his gaze, an unyielding sincerity shining through the darkness. I think you don't have to trust me, but you need to trust yourself. As the significance of that statement echoed within the confined space, each person felt the weight of choice pressing down. Would they venture into the unknown, risking it all for the chance of salvation? Just then, the hushed atmosphere was pierced by a sudden noise. A clatter from the hallway outside suggested someone might be listening. Did you hear that? Amelia whispered, her eyes widening at the possibility of eavesdropping shadows threatening their fragile moment. Who else had stepped into their world at this critical juncture? What borrowed truths might further unravel the tangled web of Frank's existence? Amelia took a cautious step toward the door, her heart racing. They had been so caught up in their heavy exchange that the outside world felt like a distant echo. It might just be a nurse but deep down, she knew it couldn't be something simple like that. Frank's father shifted, anxiety creeping into his features. We need to stay focused. This isn't just a family matter anymore. What happens next could change everything. Change what? Frank snapped, his tone sharp, like a blade cutting through the tension. You still haven't told me what this hidden condition is. You can't just leave me dangling like this. The study your mother was part of, his father began, but a sudden thud echoed louder from the hallway, making everyone jump. What if it's someone about to confirm or deny what's been kept from us? Jordan said, nervously glancing at the door. We can't ignore the fact that there are people who might want this information to stay buried. Frank looked between his father and Jordan, frustration swirling in his gut. Are you saying we're not just fighting against illness? We might be fighting against forces bigger than us. We need to know the truth, his father said, resolute. Whatever is lurking out there might already be connected to your mother's secrets. And those secrets could be the key to saving you. With a deep breath, Frank stepped away from the wall that felt like it was closing in on him. Fine. Tell me. What did you find? His father took a moment, appearing to gather every piece of his shattered composure. These were not just any genetic markers. They were linked to a rare condition that could explain your heart issues, but also others we've faced in our family. Ones that almost took your mother too. What condition? Frank's voice trembled, caught between anger and the faint flicker of hope. Cohen syndrome. It's genetic, and it can. Before he could finish, the door creaked open, engulfing the room in an unexpected chill. A woman stood there. Her hair was tied back in a messy bun, face flushed, clutching a handful of papers. Frank didn't recognize her, but the surprise in her eyes ignited a spark of recognition. Sorry to interrupt, she said, breathless, but I overheard. Are you Frank? You need to see this. Frank swallowed hard, disbelief washing over him. This was no random nurse or hospital staff. The haunted look on her face intensified the unsettling air. Who are you? He demanded, tensing up. I'm here because of your mother. I was her housekeeper. I found something that could change everything. More secrets? Frank's voice dripped with skepticism. No, truth, she pressed, stepping further into the room. And trust me, it's not only about you. It's about everything you've ever known and the shadows still lurking. The room fell into a fragile silence, every heart now racing, caught between the weight of the moment and the uncertainty of what this woman had to reveal. Frank felt a pulsing question rising within him. What could be so important that this stranger risked stepping into their already chaotic world? He could sense something monumental was about to be uncovered. What is it? He asked, the edge of his voice more urgent. What do you know? As she opened her mouth to speak, Frank's pulse quickened. He felt the air thicken with possibility, the rush of adrenaline guiding his anticipation. Was this the key to understanding not only his mother's past but his own future? Everything you think you know is about to change, she whispered, her eyes locking onto Frank's, determination etched on her face. What grand truth awaited them just beyond those words? What legacy had been hidden away, waiting to emerge? The woman took a deep breath, the papers crumpling slightly between her fingers as she regarded Frank with an intensity that felt both reassuring and disconcerting. "I don't know how to say this lightly," she began, her voice trembling slightly. "But your mother wasn't just a participant in that study. She was its most vital subject." Frank struggled to process her words, their weight anchoring him in place. "What do you mean?" he asked, unable to keep the edge from his tone. "What did this have to do with her?" "She was part of an underground initiative," the woman continued, her eyes darting briefly to Frank's father, who looked as confused as he was. "A group of families linked by secret genetics. Some of them were searching for answers, others for something much darker. Your mother was invested in uncovering the truth behind Cohen syndrome." Frank felt his breath hitch. "Why didn't anyone ever tell me this?" "There were reasons," she said, her voice dropping to a whisper. "Your mother thought she could protect you, shield you from the consequences of knowing. But keeping secrets like these, it has repercussions." Frank's heart hammered harder. The shadows in his mind began to take form, and envisioning those consequences felt like looking into a foggy mirror, each revelation revealing more uncertainty. "Repercussions how? What did she find?" "She discovered that the syndrome wasn't entirely genetic," the woman pressed on, her urgency rising. "It was influenced by decisions made by those involved in the study, decisions that put lives at stake, including yours." "What do you mean?" Frank shot back, anger brewing at the thought of his fate being determined by someone else's choices. "The markers were manipulated," she explained, her voice steadying, "twisted by researchers who wanted to control the outcome. Your mother, she didn't just sign up for a study, she involved you in a web of deception and risk." Frank stumbled back, his mind racing. Everything he thought he knew was shifting beneath his feet. "Did she know?" he whispered, his voice cracking under the weight of the question. "Did she know what they were doing?" The woman hesitated. "She had her suspicions. That's why she left the house. She was trying to protect you. But the deeper she got, the more dangerous it became. That's when I found documents that spoke of your name and how you might be affected." Frank felt bile rise in his throat. He had always believed his mother had just been fighting a battle against her illness, and now he was learning it was so much more twisted than he could have imagined. "Do you have proof?" His voice was hoarse, raw with disbelief. "Yes," she replied, stepping closer, finally extending the papers toward him. "This outlines her findings and names people, connections, decisions made that could impact your future and others like you." His hands trembled slightly as he accepted the documents. Each paper felt like a lifeline, yet it was also a burden, weighty with responsibility. "This can't be real," Frank murmured, glancing at his father, who looked more bewildered than ever. "How could she have kept this from us?" "This isn't just about your mother anymore," the woman said, her eyes fierce. "You need to understand there are lives at stake still. And time is running out." Frank's eyes widened. "What do you mean?" "There are people who want to bury this information. They will do anything to stop you from uncovering the truth. You can't just stand by." A sudden noise from the hallway interrupted them, drawing their attention toward the door. Frank's heart sank. The shadows felt closer as concern lurked just beyond this moment. "Whoever that is," Frank said, taking a step forward, "I need to know if they're coming for us." But before they could react, the door swung open with force, revealing a figure that sent a chill down Frank's spine. Whatever truth lay ahead, he realized, it was about to break free whether he was ready or not. "Frank," the figure said, voice cold as steel, "we need to talk." As the figure stepped into the room, it felt like the air itself had thickened. Frank's heart raced, a cold sweat breaking out on his brow. It was Victor Caldwell, a shadow from his past, and a figure of power. Victor's presence carried an ominous aura that sent an electric shiver down Frank's spine. "What do you want?" Frank demanded, his voice steady but laced with tension. The vulnerability he'd felt moments ago melted into something fiercer. Victor's gaze swept the room, landing on Frank's father, then narrowing back on Frank. I heard about your little health scare. Figured I should come check on you. After all, I'm a man who values family. His words dripped with condescension, the very air around him toxic with implied threats. Frank clenched his fists. I don't need your concern, he spat. Whatever you're here for, you better turn around and walk out. But Victor only smirked, taking a step forward, invading Frank's space. Oh, but you do. You and I both know you're treading on a very delicate line. And that little heritage of yours? It won't stay buried for long. Amelia stepped forward, fierce and unwavering. You have no idea what you're meddling with. Frank deserves to know the truth about his family, about everything, without you lurking in the shadows. Victor's head tilted slightly, surprised by her boldness. And who are you to decide what's best for him? A housekeeper should know her place. The room fell silent, and a spark of fury ignited in Frank. He looked at Amelia, who stood ready to defend him. You don't get to silence her. Not anymore. Victor scoffed, obviously unfazed. Well, I hope you're ready to face the consequences of that choice, Frank. The truth may not set you free. It could be your downfall. Frank's breath hitched. Maybe the truth is what I need. You think I'm afraid to uncover my past? You should be. There are people who will stop at nothing to protect their secrets, your mother included, even posthumously. The tension in the air was thick enough to cut with a knife. Frank felt a wave of nausea wash over him, but he stood his ground. Whatever you think you're saying, whatever power you think you hold over me, it's over. I won't live in fear anymore. Not because of you, and not because of my family. Victor chuckled dryly, the sound echoing menacingly across the sterile walls. Brave words, but foolish. Before Frank could respond, Amelia moved closer, standing shoulder to shoulder with him. Whatever secrets you threaten us with, we will confront them together. No one should have to face their past alone. That's the truth that sets us free. Frank turned to Amelia, hope mingling with newfound courage. Their shared resolve felt like a light in the darkness. He took a steadying breath, feeling the weight of the past shifting, and for the first time, it felt manageable. Enough. Frank commanded, his voice rising, fueled by determination. You can't control me anymore, Victor. I will find out the truth regarding my health and my mother's legacy. You will not keep me in the dark. Victor's expression morphed from arrogance to a simmering anger. You're going to regret this, Frank. Mark my words. As Victor turned to leave, Amelia whispered, We stand strong together, Frank. He nodded, grateful for her presence. Together. And we'll unveil the truth, no matter how profound or painful. It's time to break free. This isn't just about surviving, it's about living with purpose. The world felt unsteady, but Frank recognized this moment as a fracture in the oppressive weight of silence. Together, they would face the clouds lurking overhead, no longer shackled by fear or secrets. As the door swung shut behind Victor, Frank took a deep breath, the tension slowly dissipating. Hand in hand with Amelia, and with a newfound alliance forming with his father and Jordan, he felt hope rekindling in his heart. There was more work to do, discoveries to make, questions to answer. But together, they would fight through the shadows, and in that moment, Frank realized something profound. Sometimes, to reveal the truth, you had to first confront your deepest fears. But when the light broke through, it illuminated paths once thought lost forever. So as they prepared to launch into this new chapter, Frank took Amelia's hand and smiled, a radiant sense of purpose awakening within him. Let us go find the truth. It's time. The journey ahead would not be easy, but they would face it together. With strength, through the darkness, they would step into the light, and as the echoes of their promise resonated in the room, he knew this was only the beginning. Now it's your turn to become part of this journey. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that will unravel the truth. Leave a like now to fuel the algorithm and make sure others can find this powerful transformation. Comment below with your feelings and reactions about this ending, and share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation and remind them that standing strong together is the only way forward. Don't wait not even one more second to show your support.